Margaret Garner. Okay, let me tell you about Margaret Garner. She became a little bit famous, or at least part of her story became a little bit famous in the 1980s because Toni Morrison, who was obviously a great American, I should say, a great American writer, decided to tell her version of her story. Now, I should point out that Toni Morrison's story varied from reality because, great novelists get to tell the story the way they want to tell it. And Toni Morrison renamed the character. But it was, and the book that came out of that was Beloved, which was the story of a young woman who had fled enslavement with her family. Now, the difference is that, and I'll go back to what the story was, but the difference, in Toni Morrison's story is that Toni Morrison created a whole life of this woman in the United States that did not exist. And she created a life long past the time that the actual woman sort of based on lived to tell a somewhat different story. But the basic story was in 1856, which was 6 years after the passage of the Fugitive Slave Act, which made it incumbent upon states who were harboring slaves who had fled to participate in their return. In 1856, Peg, as she was called, fled from Kentucky to Ohio, over the Ohio River in the dead of winter in January, with her husband and her 4 children, and another family as well. They fled in a sled, which they hooked up to 2 horses and rode across the river to freedom, which is frozen with ice at that point. They were discovered almost immediately, at the slave house in Cincinnati, where they were staying. And because of the power given, or the responsibilities and the power given people in Ohio because of the Fugitive Slave Act, people were recruited to go and get this family. And so just picture this, there's a knock at the door. There's this family of, the husbands in the front, the mothers in the back, with all these children. And the slave agents are pounding on the door saying, "Let us in." The husband happened to have a gun. He panicked, he shot through the door, injured one of the would-be captors. They knocked the door down. In the midst of all this commotion, Margaret, or Peggy, decides she's going to kill her children. She slits the neck of one of her daughters and is grabbing for one of the others when they burst in and they capture her, and they capture the kid, and then the whole family gets taken into custody. So, there's a trial. And there's the federal trial, and there was this state trial. The federal trial to decide whether they're to be returned to their old homes in Kentucky, and the state trial for murder. At one point, in a recess in the federal trial, the state trial commences, and she's asked a simple question. She's asked, "Why did you kill your daughter?" She didn't deny doing it. She said, "I would rather she be at home in heaven than having to serve her life as a slave." That combined with the act made her into a hero for the abolitionists. They promoted her, they talked about her. Actually, I'm going to read a very short part of a letter that was published in The Liberator, which was a publication owned by William Lloyd Garrison, who was one of the big-time abolitionists of the day. And it was written by Henry C. Wright, who was also an abolitionist. And he wrote, "The end of the Cincinnati tragedy is not yet. Margaret Garner is a name that will long be preserved and consecrated in the hearts of the people of Ohio. That heroic mother, in the deep holy love of her maternal heart, cut the throat of one child and tried to fill it 3 others to save them from the lash." She was lying, because there was a fairly large movement in those days, not only just anti-slavery, but anti the Fugitive Slave Act, which made northern states co-conspirators in the maintenance of slavery. These stories, of course, I think are essential to understanding how we got to be what we are and where we are. And I think the idea that by making it illegal to teach these true stories, you somehow make things better is not only wrong, it's idiotic. By refusing to teach history, you don't change that history. By refusing to permit people to tell the truth, you don't change that truth. You just make it hard to understand where you end up as a result.